This is episode 170, Flip Your Filter, Transforming Your Mindset for Success. Welcome to Alive by Design. My name is Blake Mallon, and we're here to bring you inspiring people, principles, and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. Open your mind and let's dive in. Hey guys, before you listen to the podcast, I just want to drop in and say I appreciate you for being here, and I'm super excited about this new Walk With Me series. These are solo episodes where I take some time in the middle of my morning run through the Santa Monica Mountains to share some inspired ideas and thoughts on my mind and heart. If you want to join me for any of these conversations live, you can catch me many mornings on my Facebook page, facebook.com/blakemallon.page. Would love to see you there. Love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Walk with me. So have you ever seen somebody that maybe for a long period of their life really loved something? Like was a raving fan, like came from a place of gratitude, appreciation, couldn't share about that thing enough to those that they cared about. Like you knew it was genuine enthusiasm for something that had an impact on them. And then seemingly overnight, that same person goes from loving that same thing to that thing, whatever it is, being the complete opposite, being an enemy, being negative. And you wonder, like, how's that the case? Maybe you've seen it in your family or friends. We see it on social media a lot, don't we? Or have you ever met somebody that just couldn't stop lying? Come on, we all know people, and we've all come across people that they just can't help but lie. And they lie so much, and when they communicate what you know is false, like what you know is not true, they do it with such conviction, such certainty, that you believe that they believe in what they're saying. Compulsive liars. Or how about maybe a more simple, practical example? Have you ever bought a new car? When was the last new car you bought? The minute you drove off that lot, what did you see everywhere? Let me guess. That same car. So what if I told you that all those scenarios and maybe the people that came into your mind when I was giving those examples can all be explained by the exact same thing? And understanding the system behind what makes each of those happen is actually the answer for you, for me, for all of us, to either attracting the things that we want in our life or attracting the things that we don't. You guys, I want to share with you something I learned in my early 20s that could possibly be the single greatest shift for me in understanding how I operate on a day-to-day, what's going on in between my ears, but also in working with other individuals and maybe understanding a little bit what's going on within theirs. And if you get today's understanding, which is really rooted in science, biology to be specific, I promise you it's going to change the way you look at things every day. And the reason this is on my kind of mind and my heart lately, I've taught this topic in longer formats for years, decades. Kind of crazy. But I've just seen it recently, just in my own life, just derailing people. And derailing people I care about. And so it's a passion of mine to kind of raise the awareness for all of you in the spirit to maybe help some of the things you're navigating in your life. In my career, I have seen time and time again, people maybe find a product, being that I've been in the community-based marketing space for 24 years. I've seen a lot of people fall in love with a product that really changes their life, really works for them. Or maybe a group of individuals, maybe a person, a mentor, an individual that makes a dramatic impact and adds real value, like helps people go from where they are to where they want to become who they're capable of, like real value, not just talk, but real contribution. And go from periods of gratitude and appreciation for the things that help them to what feels like sometimes overnight, like the complete opposite. Like the person that was my hero becomes the villain. The thing that was my solution becomes the problem. And I always find myself going, well, there's no change. There's no change in the thing. There's no change in the person. But there's a dramatic change in the perception. And it hurts me. Like, I hate watching it, understanding what's going on behind it. And my heart goes out to the people that get influenced away from something they love, someone they love, without even understanding that they're being influenced by people around them. And I see it every day in my business, but it's also a small glimpse of just a broader problem that's going on in the world. I'm not going to go into a political rant, but I think if you understand what I'm about to give you, it'll give you some insight into why we are where we are as a country and our systems and the reason why people do what we do. And here's the thing. It's not about the thing. Whatever the thing is, whatever the product is. It's not about the person, whatever the person is. It's none of those issues. It's not a people thing. It's a filter thing. And I want to talk about what I mean by a filter. And if you understand this concept, I promise you, it'll change the way you look at things every single day. So when I say filter, I mean literally our filter. I'm going to give you the shortest training ever on a very complex subject of beliefs and how beliefs actually work. Isn't it funny that we all know what beliefs are? What's a belief? You could give me a definition. What are some beliefs you have? You could give me a few of those, right? We understand what they are. We understand that we have them. But if I asked you, well, how does a belief get created? And what is it really? And how does it work? And what creates strong beliefs versus weak beliefs? Might be a little more silence and hard to give some answers. So what I learned a couple decades ago that just helped me understand this dynamic so much actually started with the neurology, right, in our anatomy. Have you ever heard of something called an RAS? RAS is short, you might remember from like middle school science class, reticular activating system. It's actually a part of the brain. It's the part of the brain that is responsible for filtering out all of the things that are happening around us and actually creating what we call our perception or our projection of the world. You see, what's interesting is we think we see all things, right? As I'm sitting here on the top of mountain. I think I can see everything around me as you're watching or listening to this, doing what you're doing. You think you're perceiving everything that's around you, but it can't be farther from the truth. Matter of fact, science tells us, to the best we can predict something like this, that reality at any given moment is about 2 million bits of information. Right? So our reality sitting here right now is about 2 million bits of information. Information being things that we can sense, things that we can see, things that we can feel, things that we can taste, things that we can touch. If you take all our senses at any given moment, there's about 2 million pieces of information that we actually could take in. But here's the problem. We're not built to do that. Right? We're not wired to process that amount of information. If we were walking around processing real time, simultaneously, all the time, 2 million pieces of information, we would be absolutely overstimulated, freaked out, what's going on, and incapable of doing anything else. And so we're built with a filter, an RAS, that's trained to take 2 million pieces of information and distill it down into a smaller, more manageable number. The best that science can tell us is we can actually process about, take a guess, out of 2 million, what do you guess? If there's 2 million pieces of information, what do you think we actually process if you were to pick a number? Take a wild guess. Science tells us it's about 134. I don't know what percentage that is. I've never done the math. Maybe someone can do the math and throw it in a comment. What's 134 out of 2 million? All I know is it's a small percentage. So what that means is we're actually not seeing the majority of what we can see in any situation, meaning what we actually perceive is based off only a fraction of a percentage of the things that we could be perceiving in any given moment. You guys tracking with me here? I know I'm getting a little technical, but if you understand this, you'll understand where I'm going with the story and how to control and be in design, right, of the systems that are working real time, right, subconsciously every single day. So when I first heard that, I kind of had two thoughts. I was like, well, that's crazy. We're actually missing most things all the time. The other thing that I asked when I first learned this is, well, if we're missing most things at the time, then here's the real question. What determines what we are taking in? In other words, what determines which 134 bits we actually process? Because that is our life. Our life, ultimately, that we're living all comes down to this filter that's deciding which small percentage of reality are we actually taking in, which 134 are we collecting, why that 134 versus the next 134. And here then gets to the power of the filter. Because our brain is wired to attract or take in the 134 bits that harmonize most with our existing belief system. We've all heard the sayings, seek and you shall find. It's absolutely truth, right? You find what you're looking for. It's absolutely truth. The reason is we are trained to find things that support our existing beliefs. In psychology, it's called a bias, right? We have a bias to seeing, feeling, perceiving things that support what we already believe. It's kind of crazy if you really think about it. So the beliefs that we have program our filter to actually find more things that match what we already believe. It's why it's so hard to shift people's opinions sometimes, to get people to understand facts sometimes. It's also why in any situation, two people could be sitting in the same place, seeing, right, experiencing, hearing, right, everything around them. And you think, well, they're seeing the same thing. They're not. They have the opportunity to see and experience the same thing, but each person processes, right, their own 134 bits in their own way. So this gets to one more really important question. So if our filter is programmed to take in 134 bits that match our existing belief system, well, then what determines the belief system that sets that filter? And you guys, the answer in one word is references. References create a belief. What's a reference? Anything that you can see, you can feel, you can experience, right, is a reference. Every single thought that crosses your mind is a reference. And the more references or the more thoughts that you have that are similar, the stronger the belief. So the more you see something over and over and over and over and over again, the more you know it to be true. The more you hear something over and over and over and over and over again, the more familiar, the more you know it to be true. The amount of references that you collect determines the strength of a belief. So you guys, that equation, that system, that biology, that science is the answer to all those examples I opened up with us. The references that we create, right, and the references that we collect determine a belief. The beliefs that we have actually program the filter and determine what we see and what we experience. In other words, our perception of the world that we're living is the sum of our belief system, which is the sum of the references that we allow into our life. Now, here's the scary punchline. Most people live their life by default, and those references are by other people's control, and that's where this gets scary. When you really realize that your belief system that determines what you experience every single day is based on a collection of references that you didn't choose, that maybe you didn't filter, that you didn't monitor, that is complete happenstance, luck by the people that you happen to grow up around, the teachers you happen to have, the people you happen to sit next with at work, the people that happen to flood into your social media feed because of the algorithm and what they decide you want to see today. All of those are references every single day. Those references are designing your filter and creating your reality. And most people do not control their references. They do not monitor their references. They let their filter get programmed by luck. They let their filter get programmed by the agenda of others. They let their filter get programmed by everything and anything and anyone outside of them, living a life by default. And that's what happens in all those situations. Well, Blake, what does that have to do with buying a new car? Well, think about how it works. You bought the new car. In that process, you created a bunch of new references about that car. Those references created a whole new belief system in that experience. That belief system reprogrammed your RAS. And the minute you drove off that lot, you start to now see all the car. Well, there's only one of two answers to that. Either that day the whole world has said, let's play a trick on you, and we're instantly going to just bombard you with the exact same car just to mess with you. I guess that could be one possible solution. Or maybe the more likely solution is all those cars were already there. They were there last week. They were there last month. They were there last year. They were just a part of the 2 million bits that your brain said, let's delete, minimize, distort, right? Get rid of because they weren't relevant to you. But the minute you reprogrammed your RAS, the minute you started to attract those references into the 134, now you see it all over the place. They were already there. They just weren't part of your projection, and now they are. That's what happens every single day. The compulsive liar, how does that work? Because here's the crazy thing about references. References don't have to be true. References are just a thought or a thing in your mind. It doesn't have any bias of what's fact or fiction, what's true or false, what's good or bad. It just is. So in a situation where somebody tells themselves a story over and 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 over again, reference after reference after reference after reference, belief after belief after belief, they literally shift their filter to now start to attract that into their world. And you guys, that can work in a detriment, a negative situation. That's what makes con men con men. It can also work in a positive. It's what makes Olympians and professional athletes and the best able to do what they do. They've programmed themselves over and over and over again. Works both ways. It's a double-edged sword. Well, how does someone go from loving something, appreciating someone, being in a place where they come from gratitude and appreciation, to being the enemy? References. The thing didn't change, the product didn't change, the person didn't change, the mentor didn't change, the community didn't change, the company didn't change. the references they allowed into their filter changed. You change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Wayne Dyer. Same process. Law of attraction. What you think about, you bring about. Same process. Law of magnetism, right? We attract, right, the things that harmonize most with our belief system. Same process. Power of positive thinking. Same process. All for the positive or for the negative, depending on how you decide to control your filter. That's why those scenarios are true. That's why you watch people go from believing one thing to believing another. It's not that the people changed or the thing changed. It's that the references they choose to focus on changed. It's a filter issue. It's a filter problem. So Blake, what do I do with all this understanding? Let me check in with you. Are you guys tracking with me? Because if you understand this, man, it changes the way you process every single day. If you understand the equation that everything you perceive, your life that you experience, all comes down to a selection of a fraction of what's happening. And those bits that is your perception of life are being filtered by a belief system in your RAS, and a belief system is built by references, well, then the lowest common denominator, the root focus, is the references we allow into our life. The references we allow into our life determine the things that we attract. And that gets to be a powerful thing. When you know the equation, you can start to be intentional about the references you allow into your life. You guys, when I started learning all of this, I just started to be extremely mindful of the things I did not allow in my space, the references I didn't allow around me. And don't let ego get in the way. You can't be above this. It's biology. We're all built this way. You can't say, well, now that I understand this, I can allow negativity in my life. I can allow negativity in my feed. I can allow negativity around me. I can allow all this around me, and, it's not going to affect me. Liar. You are a liar. That is your ego speaking. You're built the same way that we're built right here. It's not about getting yourself to a place where you don't let it affect you. It's about being intentional on not letting it in your space to begin with. That's how you be and live by a design of your own, not by others. So I ask you, what things create doubt? What things keep you from moving forward? What things allow you to pause, right, or second guess? What things are keeping you from the thing that you want, the place that you want, the life that you want? And stop trying to overpower those things and just get rid of them, minimize them, delete them, block them. Remove them from your space so they're not affecting your filter. Because that's a choice. And on the other side of the coin, what references can you collect? What references can you put around you to start building a belief system to start attracting the things that you want? What can you put in your feed? Who can you follow? What mentors can you surround yourself with? What environment can you put yourself in? What things can you read? What can you listen to? You guys, this is why all of this stuff works. All of that is negative references out, positive references in. Flip the filter, attract the life that you want. You guys, and that's the difference by living every day by default versus living every day by design. So I wanted to have this conversation with y'all. Some of you have heard variations of this from me over the years. It's probably one of the most powerful understandings that I can give to anybody. You might have to listen to this a couple times to really get it and absorb it, to get it into your own filter. But I promise you, if you understand this equation, it helps you twofold. It helps you make sense of what's going on in other people's lives and maybe have a little more compassion or empathy when people are going through certain things and try to help them understand it's not a person thing, it's not a them thing, it's a filter thing. And you go back to what references are they allowing in their life? And is that serving them? Is that helping them? Right? Or is that limiting them? Or is that hurting them? And try to inspire them to change their references. Don't attack them as the person. Don't attack the thing as a thing. Look at their filter. They have a filter problem, and how do you help them level set? It allows you to approach helping those around you maybe with a little more awareness, but even more so that awareness applied to yourself, right? If you're not moving in a direction you want, if you're attracting things that you don't want, understand that that's because of a filter that you've allowed. And it's not about playing victim and pointing to the references around you. It's about taking responsibility and being in control and saying, you know what, I can design what I allow into my space. And you can start right now. You can start right now with reducing, eliminating, removing, right? Things that are getting in your way, and increasing, adding, following, immersing yourself in the things that can help you move forward. That can be a decision you make right now. And it starts with one step. It starts with one thing, right? Then the second thing, then the third thing. Don't worry about going from 0 to 60 all at once. Just take steps in the right direction, right? And it starts moving in that place. And when you get to a place where you're attracting the things that you don't want, maybe step back and realize that it's not the world, right? That's your perception and projection based on what you're allowing, and how can you reset that? And once you understand this, it becomes kind of a superpower. Man, it changes the way life works. When you start to actually be intentional about the references that create a belief system that set your filter, that attracts the things that you allow into every day. Once you get into that space, all you see is opportunity. All you see is gratitude. All you see is growth, right? All you see is a path of where you want to go. That's all you see, because that's all you allow yourself to see with what you take in. Here's to flipping your filter. Till the next time we walk together, take care, everybody.
Hey guys, one last thing. I'm super excited that this new podcast, Alive by Design, just went live. You see, I designed the show to bring you inspired thoughts and fascinating conversations with the world's most impactful people, to provide transformative principles and practices to help you wake up, move toward your meant to, and feel fully alive. And I'd love for you to help me spread the word now. Simply subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on this platform right now. So if I've ever given you value, please do me this personal favor and go subscribe now. And if you found today's episode helpful in any way, make sure you share this with at least one friend today. You have the power right now to change someone's day. So send them a text message with a link to alivebydesign.com, or simply copy and paste the link right from this podcast platform. Who's one person you know right now that you want to see succeed, that you want to see grow, that you want to see feel more alive? Shoot them a text with your largest takeaway from today and be a light in their day. And if you were referred here by a friend, make sure you shoot them a text back and say thank you. I'd love to hear from you directly on what you got from today's podcast. So if you're up for it, drop by my Instagram @BlakeMallon and shoot me a DM. And as always, thank you for showing up. I'm grateful for you, and I hope our time together today in some small way helped you feel a little more alive. Until next time.